Jersey facility and may be monitored and or recorded for security reasons.
Right, I'll introduce myself. I'm Mike Dunn, and I'm talking to a guy at Moye Prison called Luke. That's all I know about him. That's all I need to know about him, except you can tell me a bit of your background. Your sort of age group. What are you, Luke?
I'm 33.
33, right. How long are you serving for?
I'm serving 4 years at the moment.
Right.
So that would be, I'd be serving a sentence of 2 years, 8 months.
Oh, right. Who works that out for you? Who decides? That's decided, is it? When you come in, they tell you?
It's basically your good behaviour, so you get a third off for good behaviour.
And does it make you behave well? Does it an inducement?
No, not at all.
No?
No. A long time ago, it used to be called remission, and they could take the remission off you if you misbehaved. But because I would say 3/4 of the inmates were losing remission, say like they'd lost a month, and then they'd get angry, and then they'd end up losing another month, and it would kind of snowball. They stopped it, and now everyone automatically gets the third off, whether they're well behaved or not.
How many people of your age group are there at the prison? Do you know? I mean, I don't know exactly, but is it a small number, a large number?
I'd say a fairly large number of people around about my age.
Why? What do you think that might be? Why is that? I mean, I've always been terrified of going to prison. Why do some people?
I know the reason. It's because a lot of the people that are in here that are around my age were with me in the care system. This was back when in Heathfield and the Preference and Joliet and Brigadon you had 30 to 40 kids, and we knew at a very early age that if we wanted to get out of the system early, then the best thing we could do was commit crime and come to prison at 15. And because back then most of my friends were already in the prison, it was an easy choice for me, because in the prison we knew we would actually get fed. We knew that we weren't going to get beaten up and stuff like that. So there's a wide range of people like me, and there's quite a few of them that are mentally ill like me that are doing it.
Well, it's interesting because I noticed there was a prisoner the other day, and he was obviously mentally inadequate, shall we say, but he got sent down, and it did seem to me, I mean, if you say you've had mental health problems, does the court take account of that? I mean, they must do, surely, mustn't they?
I like to think they do. I mean, I've been given a treatment order once, right, but I was recalled from that treatment order after 7 months, and what that means is I suffer from dissocial personality disorder, chronic PTSD, anxiety, depression, adult attachment disorder, and an antisocial behavioural disorder. So they decided that instead of giving me a prison sentence, they would send me to the UK, and I went to a UK facility, right, and it was great, and I was there for 7 months, and then they recalled me.
Why did they recall you? Do you know why they brought you back? I mean, did you want to come back?
No, I didn't want to come back. I was supposed to be there for 2 years, but the deputy bailiff didn't believe that the treatment order was basically a good enough sentence for the crimes that I committed, which were ranging from breaking entry to possession of cannabis. So yeah, I was recalled, and then I had to serve a year in jail.
What? That's a strange process. Why did the deputy bailiff, once you've been sent to prison, why did he have any say in the matter?
I have no idea. It's one of those things where, I mean, I don't know. I'm at the whims of the judge or what the bailiff or the deputy bailiff. Were
you legally advised on that? Would you have a lawyer to advise you on the merits of bringing you back?
I did, but the legal aid is. It's not that it's poor, it's just the lawyers don't care. They'd rather you just wait guilty, get it over and done with quickly, so they can get off the roster and get onto cases where they're going to make real money.
Have you ever pleaded guilty to something you didn't do to get a lesser sentence?
On a couple of occasions, yes. I've taken plea deals.
You have? You've done that? Who offers that initially over here? Who says that?
It's the prosecution that will offer a plea deal.
Will they? Is that normal? Is that what usually happens?
Yeah, it depends on, like, say, they wanted me for break and entry and possession of drugs and a mugging,
Right.
and they had the evidence for the break and entry and the possession, but not the mugging. But they wanted me for the mugging. They would say, look, what we'll do is, if you go guilty to the mugging, we will drop the break and entry, which we have you for, and the possession, which we have you for, and you will then get sentenced based on the mugging alone. And then usually it works out as a less sentence. So for someone like me who spent half his life in places like this, or over half his life in places like this, it just seems like an easy offer to take.
Do they, you were obviously breaking and entering, presumably you stole something from, or you attempted to. What do the people, obviously this is what the general public thinks, well, you've harmed somebody. Do you have to do anything about that? Do you have to pay them compensation? What happens?
No, nothing. They don't even do, it's called, a thing called restorative justice.
Right.
What restorative justice is where you meet the victims of your crime.
Right.
If the victim wants to meet you, they used to offer it, but they don't offer it anymore.
Is that for anybody? You don't know of anybody who gets offered that now? That doesn't...
I don't know of anybody who's been offered it in the past couple of years.
Is it something you'd be interested in if it was offered, say? Would it have been interest to you?
Yeah, when I went to the psychiatric facility in the UK, I did it there. They had their own form of restorative justice.
Right.
It was just meeting victims of crime, and it helped. It helped me realise what my actions were doing to people, and yeah, it was. If I'd continued and carried on doing it. I think it would have had a profound effect on me, but because it was cut short halfway through, it kind of sunk in a little bit, but then was pushed out by all the other stuff that I was trying to learn.
I've got a picture on the screen now, just a picture of a typical cell at Moye. It's pretty miserable. It's got a very basic bed, a little table and things. I mean, to say that you would want to go in there in preference to the sort of treatment you'd have in the youth system, that's quite incredible. What were the sort of problems you encountered in the youth sections, in the youth detentions? What were the problems?
Me personally, I encountered rape, physical abuse, mental abuse, starvation, isolation. I was locked in a room that was probably a broom closet before that for about 6.5 months. And I didn't have a window. I had a opaque skylight. Really?
And the staff, were they as bad as everything? Were they part of it?
Yeah, they were beyond horrible.
Were they?
They didn't have any qualifications at all. They were just normal members of the public pulled off the streets, and they did what they wanted. We weren't to be believed. We were little criminals. So, yeah, I mean, I never thought it would actually come out about what happened in the shed and places like that. And I'm glad it has come out.
Did you appear before, obviously, the big tribunal that took place about childcare? Did you appear before that?
I did, yes.
And you gave your evidence?
Yeah.
And presumably, you don't have to tell us how much, but presumably you got compensation, as they call it, for... I got 28,000. Right. The reason I got that amount of money is because the way the Jersey lawyers worded the contract was to get anything higher, you had to have suffered a broken bone. Really?
They didn't take into account mental anguish. Because none of my bones were actually broken, it was my mind that was broken. Right. I could only get up to £28,000.
Well, it's remarkable because there was a recent case where children, very young children, were abused over us, and they were talking about hundreds of millions of compensation in that case because they're going to have a lifetime of care. But now here you are, you're 30-ish, and you're still struggling, obviously, with what you've suffered. So,
yeah.
I don't know why you're not in the £100 million bracket. I really don't know. I don't know what the difference is. Maybe
I think it's because I'm a criminal, to be fair.
Well,
I really do think that's why.
Isn't it really? Did you get? There's the later scheme now for Les Chaines, a scheme that's just gone through, and I think it's still live actually. But people, did your previous compensation deal with that, or is that a separate matter? As far as
no, with the contract that I had to sign to get the money, it then I don't know the right word, but basically, once I signed that contract, I couldn't claim on any other scheme that was then proposed.
Really?
This limited me to that money and then barred me from everything else.
That's extraordinary, isn't it? Because how do you know? Who would? You were obviously, you don't have to name a lawyer if you don't want to. But presumably, you were legally advised.
I was by Julian Gollop, who is considered to be one of Jersey's finest.
Right. And presumably, as far as you know, did he get a fee for advising?
I have no idea.
So it doesn't come out of whatever award you got. It doesn't come out of what you got. You got your award, and that was it for whatever it was.
Yeah.
Do you know specifically what your award was for? Which treatment was it? Was it which particular institution were you in that they said, "Oh, that's what you get award," or wasn't it as simple as that?
It was more they lumped Heathfield and all the care homes and the Shen together. So it was for my treatment in all of them. And then the person who raped me has been convicted, and he's serving the sentence in the UK.
Right.
And it was only on the basis of that evidence that I got the money that I got. It's like for most people, they're still too scared to either talk about what happened to them or anything like
Really?
that. They would only be allowed to claim maybe £14,000.
This is extraordinary, isn't it? So, how did you get into the system at all? Why? What was your first detention? What was it about?
My first detention was when I was 9 years old. I committed £15 worth of malicious damage to get onto the trampolines that used to be down at the Jersey waterfront.
I remember.
I was then sentenced in court to 5 years in the Shen, which was a child prison.
Right.
And then from there, it just went downhill.
I mean, you're in the Moye. I mean, was that decision, insofar as you had the control to get yourself into the Moye, is it better? Is it better being in the Moye than?
Back then it was better. It was better for me because it got me out of the care system.
Right.
But now it's not. Recently I had an episode where I tried to kill myself, and what I did is I stabbed myself in the liver and tried to then not get noticed and bleed out.
Right.
And so what they did then is I went to the hospital and had an operation when they found me, and then they punished me by putting me in a cell, isolating me from everybody on the wing. They took away my TV, they took away everything, and they just left me in a cell with a mattress and a pillow, and that was my life. I'm only now just getting back to normal.
As part of the compensation, you're supposed to be offered so much mental health support. Did you get that mental health support?
No, I didn't, not at all.
Did you not want it, or was it not offered?
No, I wanted it. I know from my time in the facility, the mental health support, and I know that it works. So I would be open to any support if it was ever offered to me, but Jersey has a very closed, I would say, mental health system. The prison only has forensic psychiatrists, where I need a clinical psychiatrist, a psychologist. And the difference is forensic only deals with why you've committed a crime, whereas clinical is trauma-based. So it's they're very picky of who you can see, and then there's a very long waiting list to get any support, and then it's getting the right agency, whether that be the SHAS, LABAS, or JTT, Jersey Talking Therapies, and you have to go through a whole process, and it can take up to 18 months before you're eventually seen.
Which would be almost the end of your sentence in your case, but with remission, as you call it, wouldn't it? So, I mean, obviously, the idea of getting mental therapy of any sort in a prison context sounds pretty unlikely to me. It's not like you can go home and go to your own bed, comfy bed, sit in your own armchair, is it? It's not as though there's any comfort there. So it's a very hostile sort of place to be getting therapy, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Would it work for anybody, do you think?
I think it would, yeah. As long as you're willing to do the therapy,
right.
It's rewarding to do it. I mean, because you see the changes in yourself and you see the progress that you make. I mean, like, my PTSD used to be that bad that I couldn't sleep because of the nightmares. But now, because of just 7 months worth of therapy, I can sleep properly and I can sleep through the night. Whereas I'm starting to slip now. I'm going backwards because there's no therapy for me in here. So I'm starting to wake up in the night and the nightmares are coming back worse than ever. I self-harm prolifically, and that's started up again. It comes in phases, and all they see and all they say is, "Oh, Luke, if I try and talk about it to an officer, they say that I'm threatening to self-harm when it's not the case, and when I do something, I'm punished." There's no understanding whatsoever.
If anybody who's got an illness, if you've got a cancer, they don't punish you for having a cancer, do they? Well,
no, it's
a very strange.
One of those things where, I mean, we had a deaf guy come in, and the prison bent over backwards to get him a normal TV that had closed captions and stuff like that. If someone comes in with a broken leg, they will bend over backwards to accommodate them. But because everything that's wrong with me is in my head, it's not seen, so they don't do anything. It's easy for them to ignore.
I've never met you, but you're a very articulate speaker. Now, presumably at some point you had education from somewhere. How have you managed to become so articulate and sensible sounding if you've had such a disrupted education? Have you got any idea why? Do you read a lot? What's going on there?
I read an awful lot.
Yeah.
I spend most of my day reading rather than watching TV.
Right.
I think, I've done a lot of things in my life. I've tried to better myself. I did a bookkeeping course that led to accountancy. Now I've just started doing a psychology course because ultimately I want to become a counsellor. And one of the reasons, I think the biggest reason that I'm articulate is because my IQ is 167.
Really? Are you? I mean, we love to have pet words for people. Everybody likes to say they're autistic now. And you sound, they sound, from the distance. I haven't met you, haven't seen you. This is a bright lad. Are you on the spectrum? And that's what it is. I think that's the. Is that a part of the answer? Is that part of it?
I don't know. Because I didn't get to finish out the treatment order. I only know what's wrong with me. I kind of know what the answer is and the solutions are,
right.
But I'm just not getting the help that I need.
Presumably, we haven't touched upon your family. Presumably, you have got family in Jersey, have you?
No, I don't have any family.
Is that because of subsequent circumstances, or just that's been your life? You don't know family?
It's been my life. I was put into the care system early, so I don't remember what family I did have.
So you don't. I mean, the situation is quite frightening, isn't it? If you're a single guy, I presume you're single. You haven't married, you haven't got children of your own. You're a loner in a system which seems extraordinarily hostile. And this is happening now, 2021, and this has been your life.
Yeah, it's been my life since I was 15.
Well, I hope people are going to listen to this interview.
Yeah, I do too.
How many people would you think there are in Jersey? I mean, you won't know the number, but do you meet many people with a similar tale to tell?
Yeah, I know of at least 30 people with similar tales.
And they're all being ignored, or the system isn't catching up with them and treating them properly. This is how it is.
Yeah, some are being ignored, some are going through the system, others are too scared to speak up because it's not been violently put down in the sense of physical, but say you've got the accuser or the attacker is someone who works in the States, and you want to go forward with a complaint. And I know this personally from one of my best friends. He was on Social Security on a job seeker's income, and when he first made the complaint, Social Security shut down on him. He stopped getting any money. He had to move out of his apartment. He started living on the street, and it wasn't till he dropped the complaint that Social magically opened up to him again, and he was able to then reclaim the money and stuff like that.
Well, as I've heard from other prisoners, unless you accept your guilt, in other words, if you say, I did it, you get treated badly or differently in the prison system. So even if you're an innocent person, they want you to say you're guilty. And it's a very... Why would they want to do that? Why would they want to force people? I understand they want people to acknowledge if they've done something wrong, but if people haven't done anything wrong, it seems an extraordinary system. And to punish people for being ill, I think that's... it's a very strange system.
Yeah, but I personally, my opinion on it is it's all hope to the Garen. Before hope to the Garen, the prison had maybe 10 people who could be charged, or say they were done for sexual offences. Then hope to the Garen happened, and the UK looked upon the prison and looked upon the Jersey, and then it exploded. People were coming in for the most ridiculous of reasons, and people were coming in where there was no evidence apart from someone saying, oh, he did this or he did that. Whereas in the past, if it was one person's word against another, you cancelled each other out.
Right.
Now, it seems that anybody's word is as good as gold, and you go to jail for it.
Yeah.
On the VPU, which is the Vulnerable Persons Unit, it used to be, like 2/3 of non-sexual crimes. Now, there's there's 50, maybe 60 people on the swing, and there's only maybe 7 people that are in for non-sexual offences. And when you hear the stories of these people that are convicted, it's one of those times where you squeeze the bridge of your nose and just sigh, because you just don't understand how they're in prison.
Well, of course, they removed the problem was, obviously, we all know about sexual crimes, especially sexual crimes, about the corroboration business. So they sort of, because crimes that took place a long time ago, if somebody claimed a sexual crime, rather like you claimed, how would anybody know? This is it. So you had to say he did it, and the person would say, I didn't, and that was that competition, wasn't it? But then they removed the need for corroboration to a large extent, so that an allegation was very difficult to disprove, so that the person who was accused found it very difficult. Now, you were in a situation where you were the aggrieved person. You were sexually abused. How did you prove that? Was it just corroboration of your other youngsters who had been abused?
I was lucky. I had witnesses. I also had a member of staff at the time who corroborated my evidence.
Right.
I went through a rape test kit, and it showed, even after all these years, that there were scars there and
Really?
stuff. I had to jump through hoops to get the person convicted. I had to put up so much evidence before they would even start the investigation and stuff like that. And so when I reflect on my journey to getting my accuser, my attacker said that they did something, it's hard to marry the two together.
How does the other things that people go on, they go to school, how does school fit in with your experience? I mean, obviously, if you were having trouble at the age of 9 and then you were imprisoned to all intents and purposes at 15, how does school fit into your life?
My schooling was done in the Shen. We had small classes of maybe 6 or 7 students, and our history lessons comprised of watching films like Apocalypse Now and Saving Private Ryan. That was our history.
And what age would that be from?
Pardon?
What age were you then when that started? When that started?
I started that at maybe I was 13 when I started
13.
my schooling in the Shen.
Right. When you went to school, at age 5, where did you go? Where did you go to school?
Jamfrin School.
Jamfrin School. And was that anything? Was your experience there different from what other children had? Do you know?
No. I from what I remember at Jamfrin, I enjoyed it.
Did you?
I did well. It was a good and nice experience. Right. The takeaway I had from it was that Jamfrin was a very good school.
I'm wondering, was there an incident that made you a bit of a rebel or something? I'm not trying to be a psychiatrist. I'm just trying to see where it all went wrong for you.
Oh, I know why I was put into care. I've had this discussion with the social worker who put me in care. Basically, when I was 9, my sister was 15, and she was going out with a 28-year-old man. And my mum and my dad tried to break the relationship up, and they couldn't do it. It just pushed her further into his arms. So the social worker, at the time, his name was Richard Davenport, he decided that to give my mum and dad time to concentrate on my sister and break the relationship up, that I would be put into the care system for a month. And it snowballed from there, because I was put in, and in that initial month, I was beaten, starved, mentally abused, locked in the basement. And so when my parents came back to me, I hated them for what they had done by putting me in the care system. I hated the care system, so I ran away. And then it was a vicious cycle after that of being put in the care system, and it went from being there from a month to 6 months to a year to 2 years to 3 years, and then I eventually ended up in the Shen.
So the remnants of your family, they still are in Jersey, are they?
They are, yes.
And you have no contact with them? Any of them?
Not whatsoever.
I mean, obviously under COVID and different things now, prison visits are pretty unusual events now. They have reintroduced some visits, I believe, because they had a bit of a... Do you get visitors?
No. I'm pretty much, as bad as it sounds, the closest thing I have to family is the officers, because they've known me for so long.
Right. I mean, would you want visitors? I mean, is there any, in your circumstance, will visitors do you any good, or just make you realise that you're stuffed in that place and you can't participate? What effect would it have on you?
I think it would have a positive effect, but sometimes it's easier sometimes just to bury your head in here and not have any visits, make no phone calls, and just put your head down and try and get through it. But I've had it in the past where I've had visitors, and it has kept me more, I guess, energised. But at the moment, all my friends, they're criminals in Jersey terms, so they wouldn't be allowed on the prison. If they've been in prison, they get put on a list, and they've got to wait a certain amount of time. I'm not sure how much time. Before they can come up.
So your friends...
the COVID regulations now, it's just...
Your friends are restricted anyway.
Yeah.
So you're schooled. Now that's obviously, because that's an aspect about being in prison. You're supposed to be rehabilitated to return to the community. Now, is that a process? Because I've discussed it with some other people there. There's not really a process at the moment. Rehabilitation is not on the agenda for most people.
No, there is no rehabilitation in jail whatsoever. they do a couple of courses, like the thinking skills courses, which is a joke, and they do like drug awareness courses, and that's it. They don't offer anything else. But what the prison tell the courts that what they offer is just unbelievable. I mean, I got told by the judge that I would be taken care of by a process of REM, rapid eye movement, desensitization, and that was the therapeutic input that the prison was going to have. And then when I actually looked into this process, it's like cutting edge, and they're doing it in America, but Moye claims to do it, and it's like I don't understand how the judges believe that the prison's doing that.
They've given you a date, or more or less a date. They told you when you're going to get released. I mean, what do you anticipate is going to happen when you're released? What do you think? What's the realistic future for you?
The realistic thing for me when I get released is I'll go get out. I won't be able to get a job because of my criminal record. So it's bleak, really. Unless I find myself a good partner, someone to help stabilise me, then all I can hope for is that I get early into the mental health and I can see a psychiatrist and stuff. That will help me. I've got a lot of medication that I have to take, so my life revolves around that most of the time. But the likelihood is, say about a year, I'll probably be back in here for something else.
Well, we're going to have to stop. I mean, I won't say it's been nice talking to you. It's been very upsetting, but I'm grateful that you have spoken.
Yeah,
and,
I've actually enjoyed this.
Maybe we can talk again. Maybe we can continue the discussion.
I'm more than happy to talk again.
If the new governor or the new whatever he is now, if he starts to change things, maybe there'll be more. I don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.